I've got plans for the backyard this year, and it's almost time to get started. I've found some interesting information comparing the effects of artificial turf and natural grass on athletes, and I need to clarify some points on my current views towards battery-powered lawnmowers. It's another full episode of the Cherish Each Moment Podcast. All right, welcome back. I want to start off just by updating you on the John Deere greens mower. Finally, I was able to drop it off to be sharpened. Very exciting, and I'm really anxious to get that done and to be able to finally mow with it this year. I've been waiting a long time to mow with that mower and use it on the putting green. I'm really, really excited. I'm excited for spring in general. I don't know if you knew that or not. If you didn't, something's wrong. I'm ready. I can't wait. The place that I take my mowers to for sharpening is pretty busy right now, as you can imagine. They handle a lot of maintenance for golf courses in the area. And on top of it, they're experiencing some staff shortages, which is pretty unfortunate. They told me they would have my mower ready to go in about 3 weeks. Not a problem. I'm not mowing. I'm not even close to mowing, to be honest. I'd like to be mowing within the next month. That would be nice. In the next 3 to 4 weeks, I think that would be ideal. At least be outside doing something with the lawn. But even with that being said, I'm still optimistic. I hope to get outside sooner, and I'll wait for the call from them saying it's ready to be picked up. Come get it, and we'll go get it. So stay tuned for updates there and videos there. It's going to be a good time. Something else pretty cool over there. They were taking delivery of some new golf course equipment when I was there. And they had a lot of brand new triplex greens mowers and some of those sidewinder mowers that golf courses use on the roughs, among other things, sitting around the yard. And it was really cool to see these brand new mowers that still had the plastic wrapping on them. Wish I could take one of those home with me. When I get the John Deere back home and start using it on the putting green, like I said, I'll let you know how it goes. I can tell you that I am really, really anxious. Really anxious. I've got the itch. I'm ready to go. When I got the Greensmaster back for the first time after sharpening it, it felt like it was a brand new mower. It was just an incredible experience. I put a video out about that, and I look forward to having a similar experience with the John Deere mower over on the putting green. And speaking of the putting green, I'm really wanting to get started on that sooner than anything. I feel like it's the area of the yard that just really needs the most attention right now. And I was out there even just tonight, just walking around taking a look at it. And, it needs some help. It needs some love. And I feel like I can't really blame myself because I can't say I've been neglecting it because it's winter. It's brand new. And I knew when I left it going into winter, I was going to leave it as a work in progress. And I'll even admit that I was able to grow it in much more than I guessed I would have when I started. But the cats, man, the cats have been the biggest problem. that I've faced with this putting green. They are just starting to really tear into it. And when I was out there tonight, there's one main area that they poop on the putting green, and it's up on the fence side of the putting green, and they've just been digging over there, man. Oh, I'm about ready to get rid of these cats, but they're having their way with it right now. So hopefully I can get that under control sooner than later. I've really been considering putting the putting green on its own dedicated sprinkler zone. Been thinking about this for a few months now, mostly since the beginning. And I think I'm going to bite the bullet. I think I'm going to do it. There's a valve box close by, probably 20 or 30 feet away from the putting green. And there's a valve in there that is unused that I can trench in and access. It already has PVC hooked up to it. I believe it runs to the very back fence. I think my wife, when we initially had a landscape company come in and install these the sprinkler lines, she asked them if they would run a line all the way to the back fence there in that area, because she thought maybe we'll have a garden area back there and then she can have a water supply. Good idea. It just never happened. Simple as that. But the good news is that there's a water line that I have access to, that I can tap into and use that to have the putting green on its own zone. So that's exciting. So hopefully when I do it, I'm going to rent a trencher. I have a pretty good idea of how the sprinkler lines are ran through the backyard. They run across the yard, side to side. And yeah, there's a couple I think that run straight back to the fence, but for the most part they run side to side. I have a pretty good idea of how to do this. I'm going to rent a trencher and hope that I don't break anything. The nice thing is that if I do crack something, there's no water in it right now, so it'll be pretty easy to fix. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. We can just do it real nice. But I want to have sprinkler heads in the ground. When I grew in the putting green, I had 2 sprinkler heads above ground with that were just spiked into the ground and hooked up with a standard garden hose. And that worked fine. That was great. Just not ideal for long term. So I think as soon as the ground starts softening up, we'll trench it out. I'll keep 2 sprinkler heads. I'll probably use the exact same sprinkler heads that I used when I grew in the putting green. They're Rainbird 3500s, I think. The rest of the yard is Rainbird 5000s. So these are a little bit smaller, but the putting green's a little bit smaller. And I got really good coverage with just those 2 sprinklers. They were in opposite corners, and it should work out just fine. So that's going to be probably the first order of business for the season. I've got a little bit more sprinkler work to do around the backyard as well. As you can tell, the backyard's going to be getting some love this year. It's already gotten some love. We put in the swing set. Kids love it. And we're getting ready for a shed, as I've talked about before. And since we're planning on putting a shed back there in the back corner, just beyond the putting green, I am going to need to move and cap off a couple of sprinkler heads. But the shed's coming in early spring. I've got a neighbor who does concrete who has offered to help with the concrete pad. That's going to be the foundation for the shed. And that'll be great. It's going to save me a little bit of money there. Before he gets started, though, there's a sprinkler head in that very back corner that's just going to get capped off. I'm going to have no use for it anymore. So I'll pull the sprinkler head out. I'll cap off the feed to that, And then about 30 feet to the right of that corner head is another head. My heads are about 30 feet apart. And the shed is going to be 24 feet long and 16 feet wide, so 24 feet long, and it's going to be about 3 or 4 feet off the fence. So it's going to be pretty close to where that next sprinkler head is, and I do want to have a little bit of a ramp that goes up into the shed. So that next sprinkler head may need to be moved over a little bit, just in case. So I might leave it there to start, and if I have to dig it up and move it over a little bit, it's all on funny pipe, so moving it over shouldn't be that big of a deal. We'll get it done. But like I said, I'm really excited. This is going to be a really nice shed, and I just want to make sure I'm not watering it intentionally. But the backyard is going to be seeing a lot of activity to start the season. So look forward to videos on that and me sharing my experiences here on the podcast. Can't wait to share them with you. Can't wait to tell you how it goes. Did you watch the Super Bowl? I'm not much into pro football, but I do watch the Super Bowl. And this year, the Super Bowl, if you didn't know, was played in Los Angeles, California at SoFi Stadium. And I would still classify this as a relatively brand new stadium. It opened in 2020, and it's the home of both the Chargers and the Rams. 2 NFL teams call this place home. The playing surface at SoFi is artificial turf, and it was a topic of conversation that found its way into my Twitter feed during the Super Bowl game, particularly after Odell Beckham Jr. was injured. After the injury occurred, I saw a tweet by Dan Francis. I looked him up. He's a golf course superintendent out of Ohio. And the tweet simply said, "Plastic grass." In the response thread of that tweet, S. Smith, looked him up too, another golf guy. He said, quote, "Someday they'll realize the cost of maintaining natural turf for football in any environment is a drop in the bucket compared to the cost of a superstar's knee." This is definitely an interesting addition to the conversations about comparing the pros and cons between natural and artificial turf. I've kind of touched on this before on the show, and I thought this was a really nice addition to that conversation. So I was curious to know if there has been any study done around player injuries, and if there is any significant data that suggests that injuries occur more regularly on artificial playing surfaces compared to natural surfaces. And I found a really interesting article from the NFL Players Association website that was written by J.C. Tretter, who plays for the Cleveland Browns. The article is called "Only Natural Grass Can Level the NFL's Playing Field." Got my attention. So I read it, and I want to share a little bit of it with you too. Here's an excerpt from the article. It starts like this. As a rookie, learning the ins and outs of being a professional football player, I remember the collective groan that my older teammates made whenever it was announced that we'd be practicing indoors on artificial turf instead of the usual outdoor grass field. I played almost exclusively on synthetic turf in college. Once I started experiencing both surfaces interchangeably, I began to understand exactly why my teammates disliked the practices on turf. Whenever I practiced on an artificial field surface, my joints felt noticeably stiffer the next day. The unforgiving nature of artificial turf compounds the grind on the body we already bear from playing a contact sport. First, a bit of physics. Professional football players put extremely high levels of force and rotation onto the playing surface. Grass will eventually give, which often releases the cleat prior to reaching an injurious load. On synthetic surfaces, there is less give, meaning our feet, ankles, and knees absorb the force, which makes injury more likely to follow. The data suggests the anecdotes you'll hear from me and other players. Artificial turf is significantly harder on the body than grass. Based on NFL injury data collected from 2012 to 2018, not only was the contact injury rate for lower extremities higher during practices and games held on artificial turf, NFL players consistently experienced a much higher rate of non-contact lower extremity injuries on turf compared to natural surfaces. Specifically, players have a 28% higher rate of non-contact lower extremity injuries when playing on artificial turf. Of those non-contact injuries, players have a 32% higher rate of non-contact knee injuries on turf and a staggering 69% higher rate of non-contact foot and ankle injuries on turf compared to grass. Earlier this year, the NFL and the NFLPA tasked artificial turf manufacturers with developing a surface like natural grass that meets the specifications developed by our respective engineering experts. We also challenged cleat manufacturers to design innovative footwear that is safer and tailored to both players' needs and to specific surfaces. There is no guarantee that artificial turf manufacturers will be able to create a product that provides as safe of a surface as natural grass, so we should not sit around hoping that happens. Until a product is developed that satisfies engineering specifications, we must take steps to protect players from unsafe field surfaces. In short, NFL clubs should proactively change all field surfaces to natural grass. The data is clear, so everyone involved with our sport should be similarly motivated to make this switch. For players, we can be stronger advocates for ourselves by continuing to demand safer standards. For coaches and general managers, building a successful team is much easier with a healthy roster. For NFL owners, any decision shown to protect their most important investments, the players, should be a no-brainer. Climate and weather are not barriers to natural grass or to natural practice or game fields. Cold climate teams like the Packers, Steelers, and the Browns successfully maintain natural grass fields. Indoor stadiums shouldn't be a barrier for grass fields either. The Cardinals and Raiders have figured out how to provide a natural grass playing surface indoors. Agronomically, natural grass field surfaces are possible everywhere. And that's the end of the excerpt from that article. This is a great article. I thought that was a great read. It's obvious that JC has done his research and isn't just going on personal experience, which is just as valuable. I agree with him, and I support him 100% on this, and I'm sure many others in the grass community do as well. And he mentioned that there's several teams that maintain natural grass fields that are in really cold climates up north. And he also mentioned that there's a couple teams that have natural grass fields in indoor stadiums. And those are really cool. If you haven't seen that, there's a really great video on YouTube about Lambeau Field where the Packers play and how they maintain their field and how they maintain it during the cold months. There's been plenty of games played in the snow there, in dense snow, and they still have that field ready to go and ready to handle that. They actually have a heating system beneath the surface of the turf. It's incredible. And then you've got these other stadiums that are indoor fields, but they grow the grass outside. The whole field can be moved outside and inside for the game. So they'll whenever it's not a game day, that field is outdoors. And it's on a big system with wheels and everything. It's all motor powered. It's awesome. There's stuff on YouTube about that. I'm sure if you just do a Google search for the Las Vegas Raiders Allegiant Stadium football field, you'll find it. Same thing with the Packers and their field. There's really great material out there. Obviously, there's a cost savings associated with artificial turf as far as maintenance is concerned. But if it doesn't outweigh the cost of injuries that occur on those playing surfaces, it should really be worth considering going back to natural turf surfaces again. So I thought that was a great article and a really good addition to our conversation here. There's a lot to learn, and there's a lot of experiments going on out there with trying to save money, but at what cost? Speaking of sports fields, I mentioned before that the work to restore the football field at the LA Coliseum had already started. If you didn't know, the Coliseum hosted a NASCAR event at the beginning of February, and you can get more details about that from the last episode of this podcast. It turns out that they may have that field back to grass much faster than I thought they would. Long before football season anyways. I've recently learned that the Coliseum is the home of the LA Guillotines. Interesting name. A Major League Rugby team. I think the name is actually a play on the martini drink. They're called the Guillotines. Okay. They have a match scheduled for February 27th at the Coliseum, which is tomorrow at the time of this recording. And that's just 3 weeks after the NASCAR event. So up to this point, I've only been able to find a single tweet from the LA Coliseum's official account with a kind of before and after image. And it shows not only the entire track removed, which I expected, there's not any evidence of it ever even being there. It also looks like they're rolling out fresh new sod, which is interesting considering the article that I shared from NASCAR last time indicated that they had attempted to preserve the turf beneath the racetrack. I feel kind of like a reporter when I say I responded to the tweet looking for more information, but I haven't received a reply yet. I'm also curious about what grass type and variety they are using. A couple of people responded to me, which is kind of fun. One person seems to think that it's a mix of Bermuda grass and ryegrass. So hopefully they'll respond to me and let me know. But if I had to guess, I it doesn't look like they were able to preserve the turf like I thought they would, or like they thought they would. And because they had an event coming up pretty quickly, they needed to get a playing surface installed and ready as fast as possible, hence the new sod. So if I do find more information about that, I'll be sure to share it. I really enjoy stuff like that. I think it's really cool. And if anything, I'm sure there's going to be pictures online of the match, the rugby match, and we should be able to see kind of what the field looks like and what kind of shape it is and go from there. But I want to move back to the battery-powered equipment conversation for a few minutes. Starting off with some news from Ryobi. They announced, I believe yesterday, they announced an all-lithium lineup of 80-volt electric zero-turn riding mowers. They're advertising these machines as delivering true gas performance and the equivalent of 35 horsepower. So from what I can gather, they will be available in 3 sizes: a 30-inch, 42-inch, and 54-inch deck. And the price starts at $4,000. So obviously more info to come from Ryobi there. I've seen some content already from Alan and a few others, and the design is interesting. It looks like it is a single joystick on the right side that steers the mower, and there's a display there and a couple of buttons to change the settings, but everything as far as movement goes is just a joystick. There's not 2 handles that come over in front of you like you normally see on zero turns. There's not a steering wheel. It's just a joystick. So that would take some getting used to. The 80-volt batteries seem like a pretty good size and look compact enough to not be inconvenient or anything. These should be showing up in your local Home Depot within the next 2 to 3 weeks or so. Something I'll be keeping an eye out and an eye on. I want to wrap up this episode with some thoughts to try and clarify what I said in the last episode about battery-powered lawnmowers. And that's the first point I want to touch on. Those thoughts that I shared were primarily targeted towards lawnmowers, more specifically the walk-behind lawnmowers, standard 21, 22-inch deck size, give or take. I don't really have any negative things to say about battery-powered handheld tools. In fact, and I've mentioned this before, with the exception of my backpack blower, I'm planning on running all battery-powered handheld equipment this year. I'm starting the season off with Toro's leaf blower and stick edger. I've got Ego's string trimmer, the one with the carbon fiber shaft. And I've still got the rotary scissors on the Milwaukee 18-volt setup. So a few people responded to the last episode, and I feel like my thoughts on battery-powered lawn equipment were a little bit misunderstood, so hopefully this will provide some clarity. But yes, first things first, these thoughts are specifically about battery-powered lawnmowers. And there's only 2 points that I really want to touch on. I want to talk a little bit more about battery life and torque. And I also want to say that for the vast majority of homeowners, these points are not deal breakers. That group of people has an average lawn size of, I would guess, maybe 5,000 to 10,000 square feet, maybe. And most of them are mowing once a week. And that group also isn't necessarily as hardcore when it comes to lawn care as I am or others that I know and associate with. And that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. I just want to try and make it clear that I have a little bit different needs from a lawnmower than that group. And if I'm going to go all in on a battery-powered lawnmower, I want to make sure it can meet all of my needs and that I wouldn't regret replacing it for my gas-powered mower. As I've said before, consistently mowing and doing regular maintenance cuts on the lawn is the ideal use for a battery-powered mower or homeowner lawnmower, really. But there are times where you're going to need more performance capabilities from that mower, and it's those events that I'm interested in. The first one is the cleanup that takes place after dethatching the lawn. Got a lot of material on the lawn, and you've got several options as far as cleanup goes. You can rake it into piles. You can blow it all into one area with a leaf blower. The easiest way that I've found is to vacuum it up with the lawnmower. And if the mower doesn't have enough torque to provide the necessary suction, it's not going to pick up the majority of that material. I experienced this with my friend Jimmy. He has, I believe it's a Cobalt battery-powered mower, and it's a push mower. It's not self-propelled. And we dethatched his yard, and I was trying to pick up stuff with it, and it just didn't have the power to do it. I also tried it with my Toro 60-volt recycler. I tried it on my yard once, and I tried it on my dad's yard, and it did much better than the Cobalt. Much better. But it could have done even better and picked up more material if it had more power. If any of you have used the Toro battery mowers, they have kind of two automatic modes to them. It's got the normal mode, and it's got this sensor in it where it realizes if it's kind of struggling to meet that baseline power requirement, it'll kick into another gear, it feels like, and the blade will spin faster. And I think it would be awesome if you could engage that next level power and keep it on as long as you wanted to. The other products like their string trimmer have two power modes that you can toggle on and off, or toggle between the two. It'd be kind of cool to see that on the mower. I think having that higher power would be much more beneficial in cases like this. Small disclaimer when it comes to cleaning up dethatching material. I've also discovered that those leaf collectors, the leaf sweepers, are more ideal as far as picking up the majority of the thatch material. You make your first pass around the yard to pick up the majority of that stuff, and then you go over the lawn again with your lawnmower and vacuum up the rest. That's ideal for me. That was awesome. But even still, without the appropriate suction power, material's still going to be left behind. The next one is either mowing after being away from the lawn for an extended period of time, or intentionally dropping your height of cut. Doing either of these tasks puts the mower against thicker, tougher grass, consequently putting more draw on the battery. Can battery mowers handle this? Yes, some can. But just be prepared, it's going to be a bit of a battle, and you'll need to make sure you have enough batteries ready to go to help you through it. Probably at least one extra battery. But I want to be clear, I'm genuinely excited for the future of battery-powered equipment. I'm not to the point where I'm all in and getting rid of all my gas equipment, but I am interested, and I want to do what I can to be current, up to date with what's on the market and how these products perform and compare to gas mowers. And the best part is that every year it's going to get better. More companies are getting involved, new iterations on existing products are happening, and all these things contribute towards progress. And if ever I have opportunities to demo and review anything in the battery-powered space, I'm going to take that opportunity. And I'll be sure to share it on my YouTube channel and here on the podcast. But I like talking about this stuff. I like it a lot. And I might not be 100% accurate or agreeable, but that's okay. I'm doing my best, and any conversation worth having needs to start somewhere, right? But I hope we can keep this conversation going, and I really look forward to it. That's going to wrap up this episode of the show. Thanks so much for listening and for cherishing these moments with me. I hope if you've made it this far that you'll consider subscribing to the show on whatever platform you choose to listen to, if you haven't already. Please also consider following me on all of my social media channels. They're linked in the description. Until next time, we'll see ya.